Okay. Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of Token Cast Reviews. I'm your host and sometimes referee, the friendly neighborhood Zach Stat Pearson, and today I'm joined by the king of witches. Except his hair is not all white yet, but give him about 60 years. A one witch king.
Hey everybody, how's it going? Good to be back.
Yeah. Reminder, much like most of my friends who end up on this podcast, Witcher is in the middle of his military contract, or he is, gonna be in a different time zone, so we can't always book him. But hey, we always appreciate when you can show up, and we're glad that you're here. All right.
I mean, I'm only 3 hours behind you.
Yeah, but you being here is a rarity. Anyways, all right. So, depending on who you ask, we watched and/or suffered through Resident Evil live action Netflix show. And we're going to discuss how we feel about it. But first things first, I want to get this out the way. We did not watch this show with the inherent intent of it being bad and taking a dump on it. We watched this show because we were curious what could happen or what was going to happen.
Actually, funnily enough, didn't even coordinate or talk about this. Zach just literally was like, hey, I'm doing this chat about this, about Resident Evil. Have you seen it yet? I'm like, I literally just watched that like a week ago on my own, but we weren't even talking.
Yeah, let me put an asterisk on that. So everyone who I wanted to ask basically said, no, I don't like hurting myself in some way, shape, or form. And when I brought it up to you, you actually had seen it or were planning to see it. So I was like, okay, well, I'm going to stay on this because initially I was going to do another episode of the 2 cent aisle. We just put the seafood episode up. So go ahead and look at that. And no, I don't mean seafood. I mean seafood, SIFU. So, yeah, the next episode may be No More Heroes. Here's your little foreshadowing. All right, so the way we're going to look at this show is by the aesthetics, the cast, our opinion on the cast, the writing, and then we lump together grading and changes you would make because I kind of sort of don't want this to blow up into something that takes me, a stupid long time to edit, per se. Turn this on real quick. Actually, I don't need that. So, that being said, I'm going to do number 1, and then you'll do number 1, and that's how we'll keep it flowing. Before that, though, you remember to keep the IMDb page open, correct?
Yeah, it's open.
Okay, cool. Because that's what we'll primarily be referring to. And remember, if you have any reference material you want to talk about or you want me to look at, make sure you put it in the chat box because, like I stated, they can only see what's on my screen. They can't see what's on your screen. I'm not paying for Nitro. I don't hate it, but I just can't bring myself to pay for it. All right, so the aesthetic or art style and the graphic elements. Well, we all know it was some post-apocalyptic shit. We're not even going to pretend that it was anything else. However, I will say that unlike most post-apocalyptic bullshitteries, they actually did a better job with being creative. Say what you will about The Walking Dead, but The Walking Dead's aesthetic essentially hasn't changed since day one. Think about it. Everything's run down or closed down. Nothing looks like it blew up or necessarily caught fire, but it's empty and things are growing on buildings because it's being unkempt. But doesn't that get generic to you by like season 4? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think I stopped watching The Walking Dead around the fall of Alexandria, the when the walls fell there. So didn't see the later parts, but no, you're right. Like the look was basically the same. Like, yeah, the only thing that really changed was the characters. I mean, it was a post-apocalyptic drama, so that makes sense. It just, the world was the world. There were trees, there were burnt, cities had fallen, but...
Bro, it legitimately felt like I wasn't even looking at like some form of apocalypse or like chaos swept the land. It looked to me like, oh, this is just what happens when you go into a rural area in any big state.
Like, I'm not gonna lie. I would have expected like a lot. Like, I mean, going back to the whole Raccoon City thing in Resident Evil, like the whole arc, like Raccoon City got nuked to the ground because oh crap, zombies. You don't ever see anything blown up, like major cities are just standing perfectly fine, just abandoned to people. No, that like those things would like everything would have been blown the hell up. Like the military going out with small arms fire, not gonna happen. No, you're gonna have like full, just everything is gonna happen. So yeah, like with The Walking Dead, like you don't see that. I mean, that's what I say about Resident Evil. Like in any of the mediums, like they make a big point that like yeah, everything got like scorched earth, everything, which you do see a lot in like this one. Like it is a wasteland. You see some like underground buildings throughout the thing or shacks that people built up, but for the most part, it's scorched earth.
Yeah, I think it would be better. I'm going to change the format right now. I think it would be better if we both just talked about how we felt about each individual section because, I kind of like this back and forth shit a lot better for the reviews than the podcast. All right. So, especially when it's only two of us. So, look, I liked, at least as early as the first episode, we noticed a deviation. She had her little contraption built up, like she had spent some time there. She had a safety net, or I guess a safety fire screen, if you will. She was in a camp tent, then she ends up the main character ends up on a boat, and just so we're clear, the main character, who I'm going to put on screen right now for the class, is Ella Balinska. That's her right there. She had a cool ass braid, and that's as significant as she is to the actual Resident Evil mythos and lore. Like with Paul W. Anderson, and I know people hate that comparison. A lot of the characters that are utilized practically do not exist, or they were made up specifically for this show, and they'll make them more integral than actual characters who we don't even see. For instance, Albert ain't got no kids outside of Jake Wesker that we know about. Jake is not in this show. Also, Jake is his biological son, but the Albert Wesker in this show is literally he just decided to adopt two children.
I mean, are we going spoilers? Are we doing spoilers into this, or we're just kind of doing a general broad sense?
Well, to be fair, I mean, I never really decided, but here's how I look at it. Talking about the plot is something that we were going to do inherently. Mm-hmm. Technically, this is a review, so we can talk about the plot. But telling everybody everything that happens verbatim, I don't necessarily think.
All right, we'll avoid the details.
Yeah,
we'll avoid the details.
Worst case scenario, I can edit around it, but it'll look weird if I edit around it because there'll be blank.
Yeah.
But long story short, the aesthetic they chose and the level of detail and input they put into set design is beautiful. You don't just get to see, oh, here's the world before it went to shit, and here's the world after it went to shit. You get to see, the many layers that come with a society that is both connected and separated post the internet age. For instance, the characters, and they don't even really mention this, but the story itself, there's two stories. The B plot of this show is the past and what led up to the current events of the present of the show, which is the A plot. Or depending on how you look at it, depending on what episode you watch or how much of the episode you're into, you could consider the past to be the primary story and the future to be the backup story. They made it in such a way where it can loop, where it's interwoven, and aesthetically speaking, that's really fucking cool. For this show, it's kind of dumb.
I mean, I personally, I loved how they did this because I've seen a lot of shows where they try doing this, like, past, present, or other stuff going on. And, this one, obviously, it starts off with us in, like, the modern day, like what's happening in the modern day. And then they go back to the past to explain the setup. But it does it in such a way that I never felt I spent too much time in either storylines. I never felt like, can we just get done with this section of this B plot? I want to get back to the main one. Like, they spent the appropriate amount of time in both of them where you still know what's going on in each of them. So when they pop back in, you're right back in there. And they had great breaking points.
Yeah, they did it very, very well. But the reason I say it came out stupid and dumb is because there wasn't an exact point in time where they couldn't have just said, hey, you know what? Let's make these first episodes about the past with the Wesker family and everything that happened in New Raccoon City, and then go into the future. They filmed enough material, you can tell, to do that. In fact, they might have even done it that way, and maybe someone at corporate said, nah. It'll probably make us more money if we interweave them, so we force them to care about the past and then go into the future. Personally, I think that ruins the whole entire setting, depending on the episode, though. Like, when you realize Billie Eilish, I said what I said. When you realize Billie Eilish, Wesker's Asian adopted kid, is the bad guy, or is going to be the bad guy, you kind of sort of don't see it coming. But that impact loses a little bit of steam when it's not built up throughout the whole season. They may say, well, I mean, you don't really find out till around the last episode that she was really like a backstabber. No. It would have been more impactful when she showed up. It would have been more impactful when you thought it might have been her secretly helping her or chasing her and all this other shit. Like when that dude says, your sister's still waiting for you. Bro, imagine if they aired the show up to the point where she gets bit. Every episode in the past until she gets bit by the dog, right? And then once she finally reveals herself and takes off the mask and knocks her unconscious, it goes back into everything that happened in the past after the she gets bitten. Billie Eilish gets bitten.
Yeah. So with the part where like the guy is like hunting down Jade Wesker, when he made the line like your sister's waiting for you, I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know if they had like captured her sister or studying her. I didn't know if I didn't know what that meant. It could have been a lot of things. Your sister misses you. Like,
yeah, because that was like the first episode. I'm like, bro, what type of cliffhanger is this for the first episode? And I remember saying that as she's jumping off into the zombie, it was like, we know she's not gonna fucking die. It's the first episode. But imagine if that first episode had been the fourth episode and the first three was just going in the past with the family.
I mean, I personally, like, if they had just done, like, 3 straight episodes of the past, I'm not going to lie, I would not have been interested. Like, 100% I would have stopped watching if it was just the past.
Bro, exactly. That's exactly what I said. Like, I think they interwove it because they thought people may not even want to give it a chance to go all the way through. But I think they approached it wrong. No, I think they approached it wrong. I think what they should have did was made 1 episode past, 1 episode future. That would have had more impact. But at the same time, they would have also had to edit some shit around, because if he said your sister's waiting for you, nah, that shouldn't be in the second episode. That should be in like the third. Because if we have, because in the third episode, if I were to mess around with it, and I know we're getting into number 4 early, but I'm gonna just leave it at this. I would have taken all the episodes, and I like what they did. The interwoven style made sense. But I would have just re-edited them. But this is the video editor in me talking. I would have done things completely different as far as editing. That being said, I also would have tried to get on a different project, because God knows Netflix giving someone money to do whatever they want to with the license is rarely ever a fucking good idea. But here's the thing. For what they were trying to do, they found a way to make me care about the past episodes. Because I can tell you right now, when they started doing that puzzle solving shit,
oh my God,
I was like, okay, we're not playing a video game right now. There's a reason
let me go get the puzzle solving in this,
bro. Yeah. Think about it. There's a reason why puzzle solving is never really featured in movies unless the movie is about a mystery or literally a puzzle being solved, because it feels immediately stupid and fucking campy. They're crawling on the ground. There's a point in this show, and I'm not going to spoil why, but when they're trying to solve this puzzle, there's a point where they're literally crawling on the ground like they're in some secret agent game, these little kids, and they're trying to hide from cameras that they can't even see. And I'm just like, are you fucking serious right now?
Yeah. Also, the whole bit with like that guy who could just like hack everything, like BS. Like I don't care how good you are. I don't care what access code you have. Like his ability to hack everything was just like I'll give it to him as like the one
Straight out of the
like this one Deus of the freaking thing was that he just hack everything, like get any information. But that is so like that is no you do not. No you do not. You cannot do that. Like it no. It's not that easy. And to get access to someone's house throughout, like, especially Umbrella, like, we're seeing them in other, like, the other movies or their games where they have, like, these super advanced facilities. They have
they're
technology.
still $1 billion company in this game. I mean, in this show. And for
you're telling me a 14-year-old hacked your security system?
I'm just using my parents' access. Woo woo whoop de doo. I'm just like, bro. No, now to get into the 3D aspects of it. Okay, so it was rare to come across an enemy that wasn't, live action prop and special effects goo crap. And the few times you got them, really just one episode. And it was episode that featured the Lickers and a giant non-existent spider enemy.
I'm gonna not talk about that because I have a mental block on that one and I forgot.
Okay, so
I don't like spiders. I really don't.
Oh, dude,
I did not like that at all.
Bro, I don't even know why you watched it. I fast forwarded through that shit. I only had to fast forward through like 6 minutes. I was like, the minute I saw that spider, I was like, nope. But anyways, and I did make sure he wasn't like some, Resident Evil enemy. He's fucking not.
I think he was like the spider enemies are from like a knockoff of Resident Evil. There's like a shooter game in like arcades where like one of the bosses was a big spider that you had to fight. It was like one of those, you had the screen and you had the gun and you got to shoot at the screen. Yeah, it's called the in arcades.
Game, but it's still not Resident Evil. My point is that they rarely used CG to represent the actual Resident Evil enemies, and the few times they do use CG, there's really only one enemy that was actually a Resident Evil enemy, and that's the Lickers, because somehow the Lickers are, for lack of a better term, as far as monsters go, they're iconic.
Yeah.
But the fact that they were the only ones was annoying. But I guess you can argue, but Zax, they had zombies. They had people dressed up as zombies. That's the whole point of this shit. Okay, I give you that. Which is why I don't give them too much shit about it. But there was a golden opportunity to better utilize it. But instead, we don't see any true CG monstrosities till literally the end of the fucking thing. Like literally like the last episode or right before the last episode, the penultimate episode, we get those 2 episodes, we get one new enemy, and that enemy was basically dumb. It didn't even really kill anybody, and it didn't do anything except chase a little girl. Ooh.
So like I kind of enjoyed that they kept it to just very basic zombies for this, because I like this in the aspect of I don't have to know anything about any of the backstory lore stuff with any of the other games or whatever. Like I didn't play a lot of the games. I've told you this. But I know a bit that goes on. I know a bit of the lore stuff. I've seen some other media sources to include the animated one they recently did, which also was not that good. Story for another time.
Yeah.
But like I like that they kept it about the characters in the season 1, which I think a lot of that's a good thing for a first season of a TV show that you're going to have running on, is you have the first season to establish all of your characters and you focus on them and you have enough excitement and entertainment to then go off from there to where you can then season 2, you can focus on the crazier stuff. And I kind of like that with this one of just sticking to these base zombies. And there was also a giant worm in episode 1. There's a giant worm in episode 1 too.
Oh yeah, that thing that also doesn't exist in the Resident Evil. Like they got the license and they said, you know what? Let's just use 3 names and 1 monster. And like I know that sounds like a joke, but that's kind of what they did. They used 3 names and 1 monster.
And I don't like the fact of them saying that the virus is it crosses species lines, because at that point you're SOL. Like if this thing is crossing species lines, how many times have you been bitten by a mosquito in your life? Bro. How many times has a fly landed on you? How many times have like you got a leech or something? Like if this thing crosses species barriers and it's that easy to like infect other things, Like, as soon as you get mosquitoes involved in this, you're done. Like, GG, the virus has won. Like, think about all the times we get sniffles.
Well, yeah,
like a
here's
flu.
a hilarious thing. Mosquitoes' most common food is actually us. So yeah, we'd be kind of fucked.
Yeah, so you're talking about things crossing species barriers and morphing them. Like,
okay. All right.
Like, you're done. We're just done. So I dislike the species barrier thing. Like, dogs are cool. Like, seeing the zombie dogs are cool. Seeing, like, with Resident Evil, the traditional thing is the virus mutates people, and that's what makes them into these abomination of things. I mean, even in Resident Evil 4, the big monster in the lake was just a big monster in the lake that was just like, hi, I'm here. It wasn't even a virus.
I
it was
don't
just
even
there.
remember the name of that thing, but ironically, it was one of the most epic parts of the game. All right, moving on. I'm gonna load up the IMDb page for on screen real quick. Okay.
But yeah, I like the pacing differences, especially if they're planning on a season 2, which it looks like they are, which I will 100% watch. I hope.
Listen. The first thing you need to learn about Netflix shows, a lot of them want to bullshit and assume that they're going to get a season 2. Don't fall for that. Like, it's very common for stupid people to think that they're going to just win the internet. But moving on.
It hurts.
No, it hurts them. It bruises their sensitive egos. But to be fair, I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean that in the sense that they need to stop acting delusional. Like, if you know you're not going to respect the property or at least meet minimum fan expectations, do not act like or build your show up to assume that you're going to get a second season. That's the shit that pisses me off. When arrogant people assume that you're just allowed to have a second season. You could have the best show on Netflix and be a good show and have good ratings and be watched and still not get a second season. Like, it's happened before.
This is true.
And that happens with regular TV. Shit happens.
This is true.
Yeah, that's why I say if you're gonna make a season 1, I don't care if it's just a pilot, have a beginning, middle, and end. Period.
Yeah. They did that.
Leave shit loose.
They did that with the Legend of Korra.
Well, that was different. Hold on a second.
Yeah, they gave them one season, and then they're like, you should do another one. So that's why, like, in Legend of Korra, there was every single season was this whole huge big arc that had a beginning, middle, and end because they legit were told you were getting another season.
Shut up. I'm gonna go get my food. It's at the front door. Keep talking. Stall for time.
All right.
Oh.
Yeah. So I hope this I do hope this gets a second season. Like, a second season would be really good for the field. But I mean, Zach, you got a good point about that. There's a lot of shows that start up and they never get a second season. And I just recently saw on Netflix, like, there's a bunch of shows that were like really, really good that I enjoyed that I waited, I think, 2 years for some of them to get a second season. And I'm seeing now that they're saying they're going to get a second season, but that still doesn't mean anything.
Okay, I'm
like Netflix does a good thing where, they give content creators the ability to, like, make a show and have a platform to shove them on. But yeah, they don't have a lot of consistency with, like, giving them a second season, or, like, half the time the shows that do get extra seasons don't do it well. I mean, the disappointment that was The Witcher.
Damn.
I mean, I love season 1. I like what they did season 1. You set, like, they did what this show did, where you set up the characters, you set up some action, you kept people invested, but you set up the characters, you set up the world. Give us season 2. Season 2 is go mode. Let's fucking go. And then they did it.
Funny thing. If you think about it, they kind of set up The Witcher, the previous season, the same way they did this show. They switched between the past and the present, and also between, two different lead people. But in the case of Resident Evil, they kept switching between, okay, who's going to be the most important person for this episode? Who's going to get the most screen time? Da 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 da. All right, getting back into it. All right, so we're on number 2, which is the casting opinion. Let me just say this. I'm going to give 2 opinions because, well, as you can see on my screen, the way they set things up, it was inherently designed to have a past element and a future element. So a lot of the main characters and even the supporting characters, well, not really, just one of them, of the supporting characters, they have a future and a past version of themselves. So in the case of Tamara Smart, hey, she did a good job. I know it sounds kind of fucked up, but even though she wasn't involved for any of the true action sequences and shit, I feel like Tamara Smart is the better version of Jade Wesker than Ella Balinska, who plays the older version of Jade Wesker. Did I mention Wesker adopted 2 kids, one of which is Billie Eilish? Let's get into her next. So,
Oh God, like no, like
in this case,
God, she was so annoying.
In this case, I'm gonna chalk it up due to screen time, but Adeline Rudolph is a good actor and she did well. However, Sienna Agudong, aka young Billie Eilish Wesker, did a better job and also had the most screen time, and she was able to show the most range. Adeline played a little, backstabbery game, and she showed that she's basically inherently a sociopath. Basically, she acts more like what you would expect a female Wesker to act like than the actual Wesker in this show. That being said, I'm gonna say this right now: Lance Reddick was one of the best characters in this show. But to be fair,
absolutely,
he had more to do than most characters. Number one, well, I'm gonna just spoil this small little fact, but I'm not gonna tell you circumstances. He starts the show being a triplet. Essentially, Albert Wesker cloned himself. And because he cloned himself, they have different personalities and they think different ways and have different methodology. And since they're like that, we got to see different ranges to Lance Reddick. Lance Reddick, who normally plays, I hate to say it, the definition of the stern man or the serious guy, right? But he's not serious homicidal asshole. He's just serious guy. In this show, he fluctuates where he is on the spectrum as far as personality, because there's 3 of him, and I like that.
I mean, the range he shows, and even just in the the main Albert Wesker that we spend most of the time with throughout the show. I mean, him alone goes from like this caring father who's trying to make ends meet whilst trying to raise his girls, but also has like extremely heavy demands from Umbrella, on top of like the backdoor deals that went on for him to do what he's been doing. But yeah, like he shows the loving, caring father, and I love the scene where in the principal's office.
Bro, I was about to bring that up.
Oh, dude, that entire scene where you just see like, oh my God, there is the Albert Wesker we all know. Where it's just like, do you really want to test this? Like, how many people can do your job? 10,000, 100,000.
Okay.
There is one person who can do my job. Do we have a problem still?
Okay. So one of the things that makes Wesker famous or infamous is that he'll leave you alone and he'll be quiet, but at the drop of a hat, he'll remind you of where he is on the pecking order versus where you are. Or evil Wesker, or essentially traditional Wesker, he'll do the same thing, but again, on that psychopathic level. He'll not really recognize you as human and consider you just something in his way, something he can use, or literally chaff/trash. This Wesker, he has a conscience. That's what makes him different. And that's one of the reasons his character can, for lack of a better term, evolve or have more dimensions. Not just the clones, but all the Weskers in general, than the original. Now, let me put the sandwich down. So, how to describe this without fucking up for the audience? All right, so.
I mean, Wesker as a general is just character where it's just like, he knows where he is on the pecking order, and then he backs it up every single time. Like, you see a lot of, like, villains where, like, I'm top of the pecking order, and they're, like, arrogant about it, and then they can't back it up when, the main character, whoever does their thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Albert
so
has always been, he backs it up with zero regard and zero fucks to give.
Yeah, the basic way I can describe it for you animal heads out there is, imagine if Frieza was actually cool, calm, and collected, and wasn't just putting up a facade until, Frieza's not getting Frieza's way. Like a little kid who thinks they're the shit because their parents are rich. And then And then
Like the powerhouse that is Frieza, but without the, spoiled little brat aspect.
And for those of you who are more cultured, yeah, I said it. And actually remember that good shows don't have to be in a cartoon. And we'll watch shows that aren't necessarily a cartoon. And even if they don't have a Marvel or Disney attachment to it, which is, most of the world. Imagine fucking you piss off your parent. But instead of yelling at you or beating your ass, they talk down to you and tell you you're a human piece of shit while they're loading a gun directly in front of you.
With the full knowledge of knowing they can straight up murder you.
At any given time.
In a brutal way. But no, they're not going to do that. They're just going to make sure you learn from your mistake in a way that you never forget. It's messed up talking about parents that way. Not going to lie. So that's a messed up way of talking about parents.
Now, this Wesker is, like I said, there's technically, I believe, 4 of them. Well, they started off with 4. And they have a conscience. All of them have a conscience except for the original. But, the one that we see the most, the father of Jade and Billie Eilish Wesker. Yeah, I'm not letting that go. That guy, this one on screen played by Lance Reddick, like I said. Okay. Oh, he is a producer too. All right. Now listen. That guy, holy shit. Listen, the scene he was trying to describe earlier, he wasn't really BSing. It was no hyperbole. That is one of the scenes. And this is something that gets said. And I'm gonna try to paraphrase it, but only when I have to. It's like, do you know who I am? Okay, so you know who I am and you know what I do. Do you know how many people in this world can do my job? Do you know how many people in this company can do my job? 1. That's right, 1. What's your job? What do you do? Now, how many people can do your job? Hundreds? Thousands? Well, let's just say I decide that I want to tell my boss to fire you because you've inconvenienced me. How quickly do you think you can be replaced? What happens if I put out a burn notice? What happens if no firm in this entire country and the next 10 want to hire you? Would you like that? Bitch. Now, mind you, that barely paraphrased, the shit worked. And it made sense because now we're not seeing Father Wesker, even though he's in a principal's office because his kids got into some shit. We're seeing a man go and say, hey, listen, you're wasting my time with petty bullshit that you didn't need to waste my time for. Get away from me before I destroy you. The only difference between something like that and original Wesker is that Wesker would tell you that before he put a hole in your head or your gut because, superhuman strength. But that's it. Now, as far as original Wesker, or at least for the context of the story, I can't tell you what that guy's doing and what he's up to. Well, because you don't actually know. And also, again, they keep assuming they're going to get a season 2, which kind of depresses me. Don't get me wrong. I kind of want to see this, go on. But all bullshit aside, I knew going in that the odds of a season 2, once I got through with the first episode, weren't that high. Not because the first episode sucked, but because they basically said, hey, we're not going to do anything other than use 3 names and 2 monsters. and they did just that. And that is where the fuck up is. That is generally where the fuck up is. Also, I just want to give a special spotlight to the characters who could have been literally somebody important, but they chose not to be. So, Evelyn Marcus, who does not exist, or either I believe she's only in Resident Evil 7, or she's only mentioned in Resident Evil 7 or Resident Evil 8, did not have to be played by a lesbian who adopted a super smart kid who goes into all of her shit and messes around with things. And just so we're clear, no, I'm not saying I have a problem with any form of LGBT plus relationships.
LGBTQ plus.
Bro, the name change is literally almost
every LGBTQ plus, as far as the most recent I've heard.
No, they got more letters than that. Trust me.
They got more now?
They have an I and an O or some shit. I just say LGB plus because that includes everybody that could possibly come up after them, and also it's easier to remember. Not gonna bullshit. It's like I said, every time you turn around, there was a new letter, and then I'm like, wait, what the fuck does this letter even go to? And then what happens?
LGBTQIA2S plus.
I don't know, but
lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and/or questioning, intersexual, asexual, two-spirit, and the countless affirmative ways in which people choose to self-identify.
Exactly. So plus, because there's countless ways that'll ever exist. Again, I'm not knocking it. I got no problem against it. I'm just saying plus because that makes it easier for me to say. So I can tell you right now, Evelyn Marcus could have been Excella Guiona. She could have been married to Albert Wesker. Or she could have thought she was married to Albert Wesker, but didn't realize, like everyone around Wesker, you're just a puppet or you're just a means to an end. But since this Wesker has a conscience, she could eventually realize that he fell in love with her over time, not originally because he was a clone. Simon? Fuck Simon. Fuck, man. I'm mad at you the same way you are. Oh, this guy is basically
the very
like,
soon of the series. The very soon of the series. I can do everything.
Yeah, and
I really like Jade. She's pretty. God, what happens to him at the end made me so happy, I'm not gonna lie. I was like, yes! I feel bad because you're a kid, but at the same time, yes!
Listen,
thank God.
Bro, that could have been Chris and Claire. Because it's not talked about a lot, but Chris and Claire actually did get adopted by one of the characters in the show. There is no Chris and Claire in this. There is no Barry. Ain't no Leon. Literally.
They mentioned Ada at the very end. They mentioned Ada at the end of the,
let's be honest,
the past timeline.
Let's be honest. We all know who should have played Ada. We all know. I ain't even gonna say it. But that aside, they literally could have found ways to incorporate the characters, and if they're going to do a time jump, show them in their past, even if it's for one episode, and then you meet them over the course of the later episodes in the future. And then maybe have a 10-15 minutes of how they escaped whatever when the apocalypse started. That's something I would like to see. But instead, we get Simon, who they didn't even give a last name. He's not even credited with having a last name. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
So Simon is the adopted kid from two lesbian parents who don't exist in the Resident Evil lore at all. Now, do I think the Resident Evil lore shouldn't have lesbians? Absolutely not. I say again, I have no problem with anybody with the exception of, pedophiles, hebophiles, epipophiles, anybody in those category of files. Yeah, you can go fuck yourself. In fact, you probably wouldn't get in trouble if you just fucked yourself. But the problem is that these characters feel forced. And that's one of those things I do not like. And it's not because they're lesbians. It's when you force things. Half of these characters, no, I'm sorry, not even half. 70 to 80% of the supporting and main cast of this entire show, besides having last names I'm not sure how to pronounce, they didn't need to be new people. Because this shows you didn't respect the source material. And I'll be the first to tell you, video games do not have the best writing. Resident Evil being chief among them mugs. But make no mistake, this was what I like to call ego writing. Now I know you haven't come across me using that term in previous episodes, but ego writing is a combination of a writer's pet. I'm sure you've heard that term before.
Yeah.
Mixed with the inability to realize your own delusion. But the way this show is shaped up, either the producers didn't realize they hired the wrong people, or the director and writers didn't realize they were the wrong people for the fucking job. I'm not even saying get rid of all these characters. I'm saying you have the wrong people playing the wrong characters, and some don't even need to exist. Lance Reddick did a good job, period. I'm not disputing that. Everything he did was believable. He slowly became one of the reasons I would watch the show. However, all of that kind of went away when Blade Wesker came out for that small amount of time that he did. Billie Eilish Wesker did not need to exist because the whole point of her was to try to get young people to watch the show because we gave them a Billie Eilish reference. Literally, it's spelled the same way. She's a vegan too, and she's got a room filled with anti-eating meat bullshit posters that no one's ever going to see because ain't no boys coming to her maidenless ass. Yeah, I said it. And she wears baggy ass clothes that you would see on Avril Lavigne or any tomboy in the history of ever with a hoodie over it. The only difference is, unlike a regular tomboy, Billie has no explanation for her aesthetic. She's literally made, and I do feel like this, because somebody didn't want to pay Billie Eilish money, or they didn't know how to book Billie Eilish, or someone is obsessed with Billie Eilish. This character does not need to be here. They could have made Jade Wesker, who does need to be here technically, but I can see, keeping her around hypothetically. They could have gone and made Adeline Rudolph and Sienna Agudong. Why do I keep saying that? Agudong. Ada. They could have made her Ada. They could have made her friends with Weskers as a child, which is why she ended up working for Albert when she got older, even though no one knows where he is, and she could have been keeping it secret because she knows Albert will literally fuck up and destroy the whole goddamn world, and she wants to secretly take him down from the inside out. They could have you know what? Let me not even go in too far into it because we got a different topic that's covering this. But back on the cast, let me stop myself. All these people are not bad actors. Connor Gossati, debatable. Ahad Razamur, Ella Ziglamir, Emily Child, Ayushi Chabara, what the fuck? Edward J. Pepperell, Christina Trisha, Umpo Usaitutu, George Jacos, Turlo Convery, Pedro de Tavaria, Anthony Osayemi. We already went over the rest of them. Lance Reddick, Adeline Rudolph, Tamara Smart, Ella Belinsky, Sienna Agudong, I said it right that time, and Paula Nunez. They're all fine, but they need to be different people.
Yeah, I think the actors and the quality of acting throughout all this was amazing. I mean, all the scenes with like Evelyn and Albert in their scenes, like the tension and the games going on, like it's a little game, almost the hint of a slight little bit of sexual tension, which isn't anything, but it creates good for like atmosphere for, the characters and the way everyone interacts. Like, I think it was phenomenal. But yeah, I mean, just some of the character writings themselves, some of the interactions, and I know for you, the biggest, like, you've played the games, you've seen a lot of the material, like this is you've grown up and lived this stuff. So having those call outs to those game characters, is definitely, I can see the important thing with you wanting to see those game characters giving credit to the source material.
They literally have never received accurate and proper representation in any form of live action. They even went, and bro, this is kind of weird. I don't know if you know about Ada Wong has almost never been an Asian woman. She was never played by an Asian woman. They keep getting these white redheads, if memory serves. But the first 4 people to play Ada, white women, just white women. But here's the thing. Capcom hired them. Like, the actual Japanese staff hired these white women to play Ada Wong. And then when they get to finally seeing her in live action...
She was Asian in the Resident Evil series, I believe.
No.
That's what I'm about the original one?
Now here's what I'm getting at with the live action. They get an Asian woman to play Ada Wong in a live action. Here's the crazy part, though. They wouldn't get somebody who was fucking bilingual. So they dubbed over this Asian lady with the white lady who played the voice in the games.
Oh my god.
It's just a weird situation. Because here's a bunch of Japanese people saying, oh, yeah, don't worry about finding Asian people to play these Asian characters. Just give me somebody who's not going to cost a lot. And not giving two shits. I was
Yeah.
like, oh, your voice sounds nice. We'll just use you. But it's weird. But what really gets me with the casting option is that I don't feel like these people should be fired. I feel like the casting director should be fired, and this show should have been managed by a producer who gave a shit about the source material more than they do. Because if your first thought is whatever happens, we have to have a Billie Eilish in the show, you fucked up.
So I think what like kind of the opposite side of that is I kind of like the fact that they don't have a lot. Again, with the thought in mind of having a second season, I do kind of like the fact of not trying to throw in these homages to characters. Because one of the things I didn't like about, the Resident Evil is what I'm talking about, like came out in 2000 or something and had like 7 episodes with the one girl who got infected by a T virus and kept going. But in that one, the original live action, they started throwing out homages to these characters that were in the games. And I never played the games or knew anything about them when I was watching the movies. I didn't know who they were. And I didn't feel like I got to know who they were. They were just there. That oh, congratulations, I have a named character all of a sudden. That should mean something. And it didn't mean anything to me because...
Paul W.S. Anderson, wife, is the main character and the lead character in the entire franchise bullshit.
Yeah.
And her character does not exist and it never existed.
No, but like when they throw in the Red Cliffs and they throw in
they waited like 7 years to do that.
Yeah, but like I didn't know who those characters were, and I get there are cool omissions for the people who played the games and stuff. But what I like about this is with this new Resident Evil that they've done, with the idea of them coming out with a second season, is they can introduce those characters in season 2 and actually make them characters that you don't have to play the games, and they can become their own characters in this, in the way that like we have Albert Wesker being made a character in this world. Again, one of the things I said to you before this was, is this part of the main story? Is this part of a video game? Is it part of a movie? Is it its own thing? How does it mingle? Like, I'm going with this as its own thing. So it would be nice to get those homages to those characters from the games or other movies and stuff and build them up in here instead of just throwing them in here and say, here's a character. Haha, fanboys, enjoy. Here's your Easter egg. But like actually make them quality characters in this, which I don't feel like in any live action like movie they've been able to actually do. Like they're thrown in there, they exist there.
That's the fucking biggest problem. When the Capcom's old president and their old licensing department, I'm not gonna say they some hoes, but they some sluts. Especially
money's money.
That's money. How they look at it. Literally, that's basically how they look at it. So, literally, the main reason, and it went from myth to non-verbal communication. But essentially, the reason we even have like CG Resident Evil movies is because the actual Capcom staff fucking hate all the live action shit. Like they literally bugged Capcom to let them do it. And pick who can do it, pick who's going to be in charge, all that. And if you stop and think about it, I can understand it. Shinji Mikami has been gone. He stayed away from it. And even without him being gone, there's been at least 6 other people who've directed Resident Evil titles. They never want anything that came from live action to be in their movies. And I mean, not movies, the movies and the games, and they hate the fucking movies. They just don't say it because, well, people don't normally ask them to their face or even know who they are. But there are producers who think the movies are a joke. And then there are some who think, oh, well, it was designed to be a different thing from the start. And there are other people who don't know that's a fucking lie. They were supposed to make things based off of what we have, and they didn't. But they know Capcom president like, hey, money's money, bitch, as you stated. So that's why I say the biggest issue with casting is just the fucking casting director and whatever producer or executive producer decided, hey, you know what? Let's not do anything with the people that actually exist. So, we've been implying these last two questions, but let's get into them real quick. Number 3. I'm going to say this point blank. I've technically told you what my feelings are all throughout the course of this video, but for the sake of brevity and also timestamps later on when I put this on YouTube, I'm going to summarize my shit. This is how I feel about the writing. You made a good show if you just took the name Resident Evil off of it. They literally could have still had an Albert Wesker and a Billy Wesker and a Jade Wesker. Just take out the liquor, the only thing you actually used, and maybe the Queen Screecher, because technically you could view it as Resident Evil. And I would still like this show. I didn't watch the entire season feeling pain. I wanted to see what would happen next. And then every so often, maybe every 3 episodes, there'd be some stupid shit that I'm just like, why is this here? Like the Dua Lipa dance scene, that was fucking dumb. Whoever decided, hey, let's write in a musical number. What fucking type of show do you think you're writing? And the fact that no one in the room said that is a problem.
I don't even remember the singing scene.
That's not a bad thing.
And I legit just...
And then when they fucking, when they go and do the let's find the secret room in our house bullshit, where they're crawling away from cameras like they're Solid Snake and shit, because there's a guy on the phone who can tell them, it's over there. There's one over there. Keep your head down. Crawl. They're the only people in the fucking house. Just cut the electricity, idiots. Oh, I can't breach their laser system. Turn the fucking power off to the house then, bitch.
It was, all that was...
When this show works well, when it goes between the various Albert Weskers, the Billie Eilish Weskers, and Jade Wesker. Anything involving them, that's where your core attention puller is. Because when you see the past, you're watching the story from the beginning. When you see the future, you want to know what happened to all 3 of those characters. I'm not thinking about Simon. I'm not going to get into Simon. We all know what's going to happen to Simon. I'm not even really thinking about Simon's mom, who's technically like the main reason almost every bad thing happens, right? Technically, not even Albert Wesker is really the bad guy here. Yes, he's an asshole. Yes, he's a bad guy. But what I mean is that he's not inherently responsible for the state of the world. So
no, actually, weirdly enough, it is the exact actions of Jade and Billy that lead to like what happens.
Yeah,
like they cause that to happen. Also, like how bad is Umbrella security that 2 kids were able to just completely mess it? Like seriously, like, I don't care that you have a fully automated security system. You're still gonna have people there. You're still gonna have labs that no one can get into. Also, screw you, Wesker, for having a password that your fucking kids know. Like, you proved that there are ways that you can set other passwords, and you should probably set a different password for your fucking work.
Look.
That shit was stupid.
Yeah, look, I get that some things have to look corny, even though that's kind of realistic. It's very common for parents to have passwords based off their children. That's very, very common. But, like I'm saying, point blank, listen, they knew how to write this show, but the problem is it was written arrogantly, and the problem with arrogant writing is that it works until it doesn't. When they were thinking about and implying and writing this shit like they were going to get a season 2, that was a fucking problem. When they decided let's obsess over Billie Eilish, that was a fucking problem. The biggest problem I have with this writing, and again, just to summarize, is that it wasn't written as if it was designed to even care about or respect its source material. That's why it's a good show if you take the name Resident Evil off of it. But if I have to say that about your show, should it even exist? And, since we're on the topic of, number 3, let me just go and show you guys via the internet Billy Wesker and wow, I type in Billy and Eilish, the first thing that comes up. Billy Wesker, and then I'm gonna type Billy Eilish. Is it 2 L's or 1? I don't want to spell that white girl's name. Okay, it's 1 L. Now, you guys on screen, look at this. Wait, let me set it to large photos. Wow, I set it to large and it only pulls up. Wow. Okay, let me just go one at a time. Let me just show you Billy Wesker. I type in Billy Wesker and 90% of the images is Albert Wesker. Oh, that's right. I'm not on Google. Let me fix that. This shit blows my mind. Billy Wesker. Okay, so as you guys can see on the screen, at least the young version, you can immediately tell who she's based off of. Oh, wait, that's the older version. Who you know running around in some oversized boys' clothes, maybe some platform boot-looking sneakers, or some small boys' Nikes, and a big oversized coat with like the front part of her hair, or maybe just her bangs dyed. Like, come on. We know who this is supposed to be. We all know who this is supposed to be. It's not a secret. It's not a fucking secret. I guess they couldn't keep her very, very plain name out of their mouth. Also, I find it kind of a little bit funny that these supposed younger and older versions of themselves, like they're basically the same size. If you look at the boots they're wearing, you can tell like both y'all mugs almost the same size as y'all quote unquote younger selves. And then I don't know why they got, I'm gonna show you the image I'm looking at. I don't know why they got her sitting in the middle, like, you know, she's supposed to be the cool character or she's the outlier and shit. Like, just look at that shit. Now, you've seen Billy Wesker. Now, let's look at the other Billy. I mean, she's somehow, somewhat, to me, as far as I'm concerned, she's somewhere in between Pink and Avril Lavigne as far as her aesthetic. But, motherfucker, we know that this is who you based it off of. This ain't no bullshit. We know this is who you based it off of. I mean, the only real difference is, I mean, they both stubby midgets, is that Billie Eilish is, well, Scotch-Irish. Bare minimum Scotch-Irish. And fucking Billy Wesker, besides, really, she should have been Ada Wong. Billy Wesker is basically someone who should have been Ada Wong and is meant to be Billie Eilish. They're both vegans. The clothing aesthetic is basically the same. As long if you take off a fashion designer label, their clothing style is basically both the same. What the fuck is this shit? Okay, that's just funny. I guess that's the way the wind blew her hair that one time. Nope, she did this on purpose. And I'm curious, like, if Billie Eilish saw Billy Wesker, would she try to sue? So, I'm just like, it's just, oh my God, it just kills me. It just kills me that no one decided to say or do anything about this. Like, It's just funny to me. But nah, that's it. I just wanted to let you guys see that. I might edit that part out for the Spotify people or just the podcast silence people because for them that's just dead air. But
yeah, just pulling up photos and like, yeah, let me go find this real quick. It's like,
yeah, and you can Google Billie Eilish, but you already knew what she looked like, and then you just had to remind yourself this is Billie Wesker and her whole aesthetic. All right, so number 4, the end all be all, grading and changes you would make. Well, we've been saying it the whole time, but I'm just gonna. I know yours is gonna be different from mine, but I got mine's in like a chronological system. Number 1, the cast. You ain't gotta fire nobody. They good actors, except Simon. I'm not saying he's a bad actor. I just didn't like his performance. Also, he was legitimately the definition of expendable. But
yeah,
make every single person someone else. Make them someone else. We already discussed Billie Wesker needs to become Ada Wong. Matter of fact, theoretically, Ada could be a Wesker and we wouldn't even know about it. Ada Wong is not even Ada Wong's real name. She's been a secret spy for like, I think, 15 years canonically. She has aliases and IDs, but one of the most common one is Ada Wong. So
you keep cutting in. You keep cutting in and out, by the way.
Oh, try disconnecting and reconnecting. I'll wait. Okay, does that help you any?
Yeah, I don't know what was like. You've been doing it for a little while. It's been getting like slightly worse. So.
Well, I mean, as long as the recording doesn't pick it up, but if you can't hear something, say something.
Yeah.
And that I already said my piece. Where's Leon? Where's Chris? Where's Barry? And Barry would go from old to older. He could be the one who links everybody or gets everyone caught up. We never even see the police station in Raccoon City during the golden times when everybody was friends with each other. Yes, Wesker was even a good guy once upon a time, or pretending to be. There is no middle ground. Number 2, hey, look, just redo the edit. I understand why you did it. If you made it 90% about the past and then had 3 episodes at the end about the future, motherfuckers ain't gonna watch this shit. But if you just edited certain segments from each future episode and edited certain segments from the past episodes to blend at certain points in time, instead of half the episode past, half the episode future shit, you would be able to pull in more interest because the core writing and the core cast and the core way that they're written works. It really does. But then when you go into the future, all these characters show up that already knew Jade. They get maybe 4 paragraphs the whole first season because you don't see them until like the last 2 episodes. The last 2-3 episodes out of 8. You hear about them. Hey, mommy. Like the first episode, like, okay, she got a kid. Well, they're going to be important later. I was right, but later was like the last 2 episodes. You can't have these big time jumps where you completely change the supporting cast and think we're not going to care about or want to know about what happened to the previous supporting cast. And half the characters that are going to be a quote unquote supporting cast for like season 2. I don't even remember their fucking names. Do you?
No, like I remember the main characters, and then like I guess Jade had like a husband or whatever, and
yeah, I don't even remember his name.
There's a kid running around, which goddamn, that kid should have known better. Like legitimately, that kid should have just. What are you doing? You were told to stay. There are zombies. You've grown up in this world. You do not have a survival instinct, clearly.
Yeah, and then she has to be one of those gifted children, so. It sounds like they immediately skipped all the older games and they're immediately trying to incorporate elements of Resident Evil 7 and Resident Evil 8 and Resident Evil 8's upcoming DLC with basically the superhuman apocalypse of zombies. And I just keep thinking to myself, yo, real talk. Why did they think they were magically going to get a sequel? And and that's one of the things I would change. I would not have a season that didn't have a beginning, middle, and end, because even if you don't know if you're gonna have a season 2, cliffhangers are annoying. And the final thing I would change the entire existence of Evelyn Marcus and her entire line. Like I said, I would have all the good actors stay and have them play different people. Evelyn doesn't need to be there because that's where Wesker goes. Evelyn Marcus should not have been the head of Umbrella under any circumstance.
She was a head. She was just head of that department of Umbrella.
No, she was on track to get promoted and be in charge of everything. Because once they released it, the company's going to make explosive growth. And you know how companies work. They don't necessarily go by talent. They go by who got us the most money.
Yeah.
So, Evelyn, she can stay married to whoever the fuck she wants to stay married to. Male or female, I don't care. I care about a good story being told. And Resident Evil Netflix, because I can't think of a good subtitle for this thing. Resident Evil Netflix doesn't know what type of show it wants to be, and there's an identity crisis. And it needs to be fixed, but it's too late because, well, even if it's not canceled, and I'm pretty sure it is canceled, the biggest issue was the fact that it got produced without featuring the main cast of characters from literally every single Resident Evil title except for one character. And that's a damn shame. So for you, what, and finally, I give this show a B. Not for bad, but grade B. Because it's somehow in the middle of good and trash. Or in the middle of awesome and camp, if you will. It was put together well. The production value is good. The writing is good. The casting is good. Well, the writing is good most of the time. The casting is very good, but none of this is Resident Evil. And the only reason that this one gets better than Cowboy Bebop live action, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hurt you, I apologize, is because they had a core fundamental that was missing from Cowboy Bebop. Not gonna get into that though.
Yeah, I haven't seen that yet. So
what do you mean yet? Don't watch it.
No, it's that bad. All right, I'm just still trying to watch the original Cowboy Bebop because I've been behind on that.
Yeah, you fucking should. All right, so number 4. How do you feel? What should they change? What changes would you make to the show? And what is your final grade for it?
I mean, I think I'm gonna go with same thing with you with like a B on this one. Like, it wasn't the greatest film of all time, but like I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thoroughly was entertained by it. And as someone who doesn't have as deep of a connection to the games and the history lore there and stuff, like it was really good.
Yeah, like if you don't play the games, this show is gonna come off as great with very few exceptions.
Yeah, I mean, I think it had the Resident Evil feel that I've had for most things where it's just like, here's some realism, but hey, here's some crazy Umbrella shit that we explain it because it's Umbrella and we just get to do what we want with that. So I felt it had a lot of that atmosphere, that attitude, that feeling towards it. Characters written very well for the most part. Definitely some side, like a lot of the side characters to the main cast, like, it did feel strange there. Like some of the writing, some of the support characters to the main cast, like they kind of showed up and they were gone, and like very, very easy to forget them. Jade's
the
husband.
Mark of the show that thinks it's getting a season 2.
That's literally what I was about to say. Like, this show is super banking on that. Like, we're gonna have a season 2, and I would like it to. But yeah, the show definitely has a feel that it's going to get a season 2, that it wants a season 2, and it needs it to continue on where they set up. It was a very good season 1 foundation setup. The Resident Evil concepts. It would be really cool to see, like, if they do a season 2, like, to see the other characters introduced, because I mean they make homages to the first Raccoon City, which again, why would you make a second one and name it exactly Raccoon City 2? Like, like the people who know, like, Why would you make it the same name again after you nuked the last one? So very interested. Yeah, I mean, I give it a B. Just some of the stuff was just written kind of poorly. The two kids being able to bring down this entire mega corporation was some BS.
Well, I mean,
You know,
technically,
some
the
of the
corporation
stuff.
still exists, but I know what you mean. The fact that they
Yeah,
infiltrated that easily.
yeah. Some of the interactions with like Jade and Albert, like after like the truth of everything comes out towards the end, I'm just like, what? Why are you mad? Like, what? Oh no, he's doing this thing that literally has no negative impact on you, and like he has done nothing but loving, like just kids in movies, like the Billies in movies are just dumb. Kids in movies are just so dumb, and I hate it. You're just mad to be mad. Like a writer just gets to be like, you're gonna feel this emotion because you're a kid and you can feel whatever emotion you want on a twin-sided die at any point in time for no logical reason. Yeah, I mean the stuff with Billy was just it's just a badly written character overall.
Yeah, when you can
I
have, I think, well, I've seen, I've had teachers tell me this, and I think it's still true. If you have a character in a show, a book, or a movie where every single thing that they do, if they're removed from it, doesn't alter or change the plot, and you don't have to do anything with them, they don't need to exist. Billy Wesker is that character.
Yeah.
They had 3 clones of Wesker in this show. Light spoiler, but I already said that a bunch of times. They literally could have had, if that dude in the first episode said, "Your father misses you," what? My dad's dead. You know, that could have been a cool thing, because she could have forgotten he's got a clone because she only met him once. Remember?
Yeah.
And then she could have had the secret reveal. Oh, well, they were going to blame me for this, so I let Evelyn run the company. So in case something does happen, you know, I got this backup little dummy project right here. And I'm just sitting up here like, why is she even here? She's literally turning into a father. Like, just, why didn't they fucking just keep, Albert? They could have let her die in the past. That would have been cooler. But no, somebody, like I said, is obsessed with Billie Eilish. But, okay, I'm going to do a little jump cut in. All right, so this is the beginning of the video, even though I'm recording this at the end. For you guys who want the short version, me and Witch King give it a B, but for different reasons. B's. Witch King's reason primarily being it's a good show with very, very random moments of illogical, stupid writing that pull you out of it, but it can bring you back just as easily, especially when it's paying attention to the core cast of characters. However, his rating is based on the fact that he has no prior experience and no real history with anything relating to Resident Evil. I give it a B because there is competent writing. However, I acknowledge they have some off-the-wall outlandish bullshit that happens from time to time that shouldn't even be allowed to happen or even be treated as something realistic in any way, shape, or form. And it's almost like it pulls you out of a serious show into going into camp. And I hate that they are sequel baiting, or I guess the better term would be foreshadowing future events, when the only way you would think you were getting a season 2 is if you were arrogant and conceited with what you're doing. Because this is a show that does not respect its source material. I know a lot of people like to give Cowboy Bebop shit, rightfully so. Let me not joke. But Cowboy Bebop does more than use 3 names and 2 monsters from Resident Evil lore in a Resident Evil fucking show. Literally, if you took the name off this show, I guarantee you its rating would dramatically improve. So yeah, there's your short version. But for the rest of you, thank you for going through this whole video. And yeah. Alright, with that being said, I will see you guys when I see you guys.